What a breath of fresh air. Listen, I've heard several descriptions about this magnificent place where stars are born and magic happens, but none of them did it justice, because wow. I've also seen pictures on the internet, and let me tell you, they simply don't match the physical experience and the sense of nostalgia this place exudes. So, we're in Bloemfontein at the Joburg Theatre complex, where we're met with beautiful green trees and gardens blooming with flowers. So yeah, it's definitely giving spring vibes. Considering the past few days, the crew and I dressed up in anticipation of a cold and rainy day, but listen, the sun came to play, and we're not complaining, hey? We're basking in its glory. Upon entering, there are escalators on the left-hand side and stairs on the right going up to the second floor. So I'm here with Justine, who is the general tour guide of the Joburg Theatre, and she's going to tell us more about her journey and experiences in Joburg Theatre. Justine, good afternoon. Let me say I absolutely adore the way you're dressed. It's giving casual vibes. Can I just ask you, is this your daily or go-to outfit, or is there like a standard uniform, to wear at the Joburg Theatre?
We really only have standard uniforms when the guys are doing something that maybe is safety orientated. So if you're on stage or if you're working maintenance, then we need you in safety boots and certainly trousers if you're climbing up ladders. We wouldn't recommend climbing up ladders in high heels and a skirt. But generally during the day we're fairly relaxed. It's certainly not a formal business environment, but for opening night we certainly would be a little more formal or a little more dressed up.
So, how long have you been working here?
I've been here nearly 25 years. It was supposed to be a very casual four-month job just as I finished studying. It was supposed to be standing in for someone who'd gone on maternity leave. And she never came back from maternity leave, and I never left. It turned into a career. Unexpectedly.
So what actually just, motivated you to stay?
I was very lucky. When I started here, I was running an art gallery, which has long since closed. But I'd been at the theatre long enough to step sideways, and I'd learnt about theatre, and I'd been asked to take over running certain tours for the theatre, and I'd become quite familiar with the industry. So, and then the job changed as the years changed, the jobs changed, and it became a career. It certainly wasn't where I planned on spending a large portion of my working life, but it did work out that way, and I've had a very happy time here.
25 years is a lot. So.
Absolutely. I think the one thing we have found is that people either find a home in the theatre or they don't. It either is the place for you and you stay and never leave, or it's just not something that you get comfortable with, and after a while you don't stay. But the ones who stay tend to stay long term.
What are your daily or general duties?
So I've run what's called the customer services department here at the theatre. So that includes any facilities where members of the public would come into contact with the theatre, from things like reception to the box office to the websites. All of that would fall under it. I also run the IT department, so a real mixed bag of things. But one of the things that I do, because as I've just told you, I've been here so long, I run the tours for the theatre.
How has your experience been as a tour guide here, in terms of some of the challenges, strengths or opportunities that you've faced here?
We have had some quite different tours, if I think about it. We do it for the school where there's a drama teacher who just loves bringing her students to the theatre, and those ones are quite easy because they kind of know what they want. We do a lot for tertiary education, whether they are sound designers or architecture students or interior decor students, that we do as well. I think the hardest ones to do are the ones where they're little kids who've never been to a theatre before, and they come with a teacher who's very supportive, but often the schools just don't necessarily have the facilities to do drama or to come and watch productions. Those ones are quite difficult because you're introducing kids to a whole new language, and if there's not a supportive adult to kind of be there with them afterwards, it's very difficult. It can be quite alienating. But the more you come into the theatre, the more familiar it is, the easier it is to access. So.
Oh, I Okay, I actually thought you'd say maybe the children throw tantrums or something like that. So I was like, okay,
No,
maybe
no,
that
no,
could be
not at
expected.
all. The kids tend to be incredibly well behaved, incredibly well behaved. I've very seldom had problems with poor behaviour, but often the experience of being in the theatre is quite strange for them, especially if they haven't had the opportunities to watch productions before. So if they come into the space for the first time, it can be difficult, because when you say a theatre, sometimes there's a thought that it's a movie theatre, and of course live theatre is very different to watching something on a screen. So that can be it can be strange. I mean, once they get the idea that there's no problem, but it's often that's often the hardest kind of tour to do.
25 years, like I said,
Long
is a
time.
lot. So do you see yourself here, let's say, in the next 5 to 10 years?
I've certainly got no plans, no plans to move. As I say, we've found it either becomes a life, does become a life, and you don't have to be on stage for it to be a life. Those that it sort of pulls into its net, it's wonderful. If it's not for you, I think you find out very quickly.
Yeah, so somehow it's just become a part of you.
Yes,
That's really
yes,
beautiful.
it's become.
So what would you recommend for someone who's never experienced, being in a theatre?
You have to start somewhere, but some shows are definitely more accessible than others, and I think if you know that you like music or comedy or dance, then that's kind of the show you should start with. Absolutely, we encourage people to step out of their comfort zones and try something new, but if you've never been in the theatre before and you just know that, for example, you love Trevor Noah, then maybe coming to the theatre to watch comedy is a easy stepping stone to the space.
Kind of elaborate more on accessibility, in what sense?
The theatre should be easily accessible to everyone. There are a lot of misconceptions that theatre is ridiculously expensive, and in some cases it is. Certain shows will have overseas rights, to cover the cost, big costs, that sort of thing. I mean, all the costs have to be covered, so the tickets cannot be cheap. But there's a very big emphasis to do theatre that reaches to the community, and that is not designed to be expensive. It's designed to be accessible. But I know sometimes people think there's this big, enormous building on the hill, and it was designed at a time, rather than being sort of all embracing, it does look a little stern on the outside. But that's also why we encourage the schools, because it's very accessible if you're coming in a group of kids.
So according to you, how does the theatre, essentially amplify the beauty of Braamfontein? Because, it's just like on the hill of Braam, like you said.
It is on the hill, so very strategic. I mean, before the theatre was built, there was actually a school here. And there are lots of schools in this area. Across the road from us, there's NSA, there's lots of other schools as you go down the road. And I think it's quite interesting that they chose the school on the hill to be the one that would be knocked down to build a theatre. So there is a lot of support for Johannesburg having what we call international facilities, the same way that if you'd go to London, you'd go to a theatre there, or New York, you'd go to a theatre, or you go to Australia, you go to Sydney Opera House. But I think one of the things is there are lots of private theatres. For example, if you go out north to like Monte Cassino, not designed to be there not designed to be open 50 weeks of the year. You have to go into the Monte Cassino environment to get it. And I mean, I'm not trying to knock Monte Cassino, that it's a business. But we're trying to be open 6 days a week. We're trying to be open at least 50 weeks of the year. We're trying to be lots of things to lots of different people. We mentioned the People's Theatre, that very much for little kids. You saw the setup for the ballet. That's a very different audience. We've got space.com, which is our youth development. That is really for people who are interested in theatre, possibly as a career. They're not little kids, but they're not adults coming to watch a production either. And then we've got the Lesedi as well, which is much smaller shows. So the Mandela, where we were, was just over 1,000 at full capacity. The Lesedi is much smaller, 250, but you can have a different kind of show there. So we're trying to be all things to all people. Whether we succeed or not is, I suppose, open for... Yeah, you can't please everyone all the time. But, Johannesburg should be more than potholes and traffic and that sort of thing. There should be elements of beauty. And I do think the theatre is part of that. And it gives you a space to experience, you don't have to necessarily enjoy what you're seeing on stage. It might make you feel uncomfortable, it might make you feel angry, it might make you feel mad or passionate, depending what you're watching. But it gives you a space to feel that. I think the worst kind of show is one that you're kind of indifferent. You don't have to like it. There's no rule that says you have to like it.
How has the theatre, landscape changed over the years, over your 25 years of experience? I'm just going to emphasize on the 25-year ticket.
I can even go further back. When this theatre was built in the 60s, obviously South Africa was a very different time, very different place. I mean, the whole social economic landscape has changed drastically since then. And I think the kind of shows that were popular in 1962, 1964, 1970 are very different to the kind of shows that we see selling out now. I mean, just this year alone, for example, we've had 2 shows that are wildly different, but both sold out. The one was William Kentridge's The Head and the Load. Very different. It's about the experience of black soldiers, black South African soldiers and other African soldiers during World War I, and how inhumanely they were treated. A very powerful piece, but sold out. The theatre landscape has become a lot more open as to what we consider theatre. It's not just ballet. It just shows us that there is space for all kinds of audiences. That's the one thing that I certainly think has changed over the years. The other thing that's changed drastically, of course, is technology. There was a time where we couldn't, if people brought music on a Mac, we couldn't facilitate the production because there was no way to get the information off the Mac and onto our systems without compromising on the sound. So that's certainly in the last 10, 12 years, the way we use technology on stage, off stage, it's amazing. I mean, even during COVID, we saw how technology changed.
So as we're walking towards the entrance, we have the Walk of Fame called Connecting Stars in the City of Gold. Would you mind explaining what's exactly going on here? Because I'm seeing stars and I'm seeing names, like big names, and I love it.
Absolutely. So what happened last year in 2022, it was our 60th birthday. And one of the things we wanted to do to celebrate the birthday was also acknowledge those people who had performed on our stages. So we obviously can't do everybody, so we've chosen some of the more famous ones.
Prominent stars.
You can see that by the names, Gibson Kente, Brenda Fassie, Shailene Soti Richards, Trevor Noah.
Johnny Clegg.
Trevor Noah, we knew him long before he was famous overseas. Yeah. Des and Dawn Lindbergh, Mimi Kutzer, really huge amounts of names, and these are just some of the stars who've performed on our stages and have a bit of a history with Joburg Theatre. So this is to pay tribute to them, because obviously without our performers, we wouldn't really have much to offer members of the public. Yeah, the show needs a whole bunch of people to carry on. We need our performers as much as we need everybody else.
So this is the history. Previously known as the Joburg Civic Theatre, the Joburg Theatre complex was built in 1962 by the Joburg City Council back then. Can you believe that this gem is 61 years old? That's almost 3 times my age. Damn, it's been around. This is a high-profile landmark on the top of Braamfontein Hill. It's an exciting, bustling venue from early morning to late at night. So it definitely epitomizes the beauty of Braam. It consists of 4 auditoriums: the People's Theatre, which houses 176 people, the Lisedi Theatre with 251 seats, the Space.com with 148, and last but most definitely not least, the Mandela Theatre, which accommodates 1,069 patrons. Yep, you got that right. Bringing in Mbongeni Moyake, a very talented ballet dancer here. So, Mbongeni, what springs to mind when you hear the word theatre?
Lights, audience, people, love, stage, smiles, laughter, yeah. And all vibes, yeah.
Yeah. Feels. So what would you say was your first memory being at this specific theatre?
My first memory being here, I know that I did a competition with the Nedbank for a Nedbank scholarship Dalo, and we had to watch one production at the Lesedi Theatre, well, not the Nelson Mandela. And it was, I mean, I got the vibe, and it was so filled with creatives, you know, and with legends and all. Like it had that vibe where the theatre has a presence of great art and great performances. So it was beautiful to have to feel that energy around, and to see how many productions are active around that time also. So it was quite beautiful to see that in a theatre. Yeah.
Interesting. How long ago was this, or how old were you?
I was 18. I was 18 years old, 2018. Yeah, and it was also my first time in Johannesburg. Yeah, too. So pulled to the theatre. It was quite beautiful. Yeah, I know it was quite beautiful to see that at that time. And I also didn't know that I'm gonna be residing around here. They auditioned. Joburg Ballet auditioned for dancers, but it was not specifically for a scholarship. But they loved me so much that they offered me a scholarship to be a grad with them. And yeah, I was really pleased. From then, that's when I came to this beautiful theatre, and I saw this beautiful theatre. It was quite beautiful. Yeah.
So, I mean, you could have chosen any space, especially considering the fact that you're a Cape Townian. Why did you choose to, explore your craft specifically?
I know that is a true question, actually. Because also when I moved here, people were asking me, "Are you in Cape Town? You know, you guys have the nice beaches and the nice view." To be honest, it's the love of the craft and love of the art that also Joburg Theatre presents. It has so much. They take so much care for it. It's not. I think it's also, again, I feel like again it's the care and the love that the Joburg Theatre presents for the audience, the people watching, and the amount of seriousness that they bring out to the theatre and to the audience, the amount of productions that they do. But what really drew me into here again, I think there's this mindset again as artists where when you do something, you do it, and you do it because you love it, but your mind is really focused on doing that. And I think I felt that sense for me too, I mean, there were also other options where I was going to be studying and doing ballet part-time. But I think also, again, the scholarship really widened my view of how where ballet could take you as a person. I think also in a new environment, a new place, a new area, and a new city. So for me, that's what drew me into just learning about the arts and learning about the city as well. So, yeah.
I think on that note, I also want to ask you, what's the importance of theatrical performances in the contemporary South African landscape, and what keeps you going?
Yeah, no, the contemporary South African landscape, that's another good question, because I always speak about also seeing different types of dance companies in the Joburg Theatre, witnessing them perform. The contemporary dance companies here are very, it carries a type of spirit where you can see that they really, really embody the presence of being dancers and African dancers, black dancers, I know that I'm involved in Joburg Ballet. We're also in need of more black dancers in ballet in general in South Africa. But it's so beautiful to see the contemporary space where now they really are diving deep into the culture, Yeah, and it's quite beautiful to see. Like the Vuyani Dance Theatre, we did a production with them, Romeo and Juliet.
I understand that your COVID was hectic. I don't know if you felt the brunt of it, but I know that there were several projects created to essentially, raise funds and provide some form of income for, artists, because considering the fact that they are independent contractors, I wanted to know, are these funds still available? Do they issue them out to artists such as yourself?
That's another thing. I think also with funding, it did disturb a bit of growth in ballet in general also during COVID. So when it comes to that, I feel like it's something that's continuously growing in aspects we don't know. I know that the city funds our company, so we are funded by the city, and they give us a general grant. They give us, certain amount of money, and we have to find our funds at the side too. But I know that due to COVID, there was a lot of things happening, but we actually functioned well during that time. We were still getting a bit of money from the city. But when it comes to funding, it's something that is it needs actually that aspect of it needs to be outreached more, I think, also specifically because we also get dancers from different backgrounds and from different places. So there's certain types of funding that's needed to be given unto them. There is, but it's not enough, I could say.
Okay, so we're speaking to Yolanda Ruth, who's one of the audience members who watched the Don Quixote. So Yolanda, tell us, what do you like about the theatre, just the space?
I think it's the general size and just the magnitude. When you sit there, it's like just the feeling, like it's so big and everybody is there to enjoy something together and have fun and see something new and artistic and colourful and bright and just celebrate people's talents.
So how often do you watch shows at the theatre?
Quite often, a couple of times a year. Every time I see something interesting that catches my eye, I'll be here to come see.
Ooh, something interesting like Don Quixote?
Yes.
Ooh.
And we also watched Tosca. That was absolutely magnificent, with the Cape Town Opera Company that came to visit Joburg. So that was also good. And then every year the Panto, very bright and colourful, more for children, but it makes you feel good.
You're such a theatre enthusiast. So tell us more about Don Quixote. You watched the whole, performance. What did you like about it?
It's a nice romance, but it also has some comedy. So there's a bit of laughing going on, especially with Sancho Panza. I loved as well Gamache with his wig. Such an attitude. It was fantastic to watch. And just the overall feel of it and how nicely people dress up and bring you right into that era. So you feel that you transported to another time.
Thank you so very much for listening in. I'm your show host, Sfundo Parakazov, and you've been listening to the Joburg Theatre edition of The Beauty of Brown. This is an episode of the We Should Be Writing podcast, Season 4, a product of the Honours in Journalism and Media Studies program at the Wits Centre for Journalism in Joburg. Our producers were Georgia Cartwright, Utsile Soratle, and our editor, Mbongeni Mlambo. Our theme music was composed by Nganka Matebula, and our graphic design was by Seth Thorne. Additional episode music credits and information are available on our Anchor FM page. On all social media, we're Wits Vuvuzela, and you can see more of our work on witsvuvuzela.com.